If now I have found grace in thy sight, put, I pray thee, thy hand under my thigh, and deal kindly and truly with me. Bury me not, I pray thee, in Egypt, but I will lie with my fathers, and thou shalt carry me out of Egypt, and bury me in their burying place. And he said, I will do as thou hast said. He said, swear unto me. And he swore unto him. And Israel bowed himself upon the bed's head.
All right, so he bowed down to his father, saying, I promise that I'll bury you with your fathers, right? He didn't want to be buried in Egypt. Remember, Abraham already bought a burying place for him and his sons.
Yeah.
Right? He bought a burying place for him, Isaac, and Jacob. Right? So read on.
Chapter 48. And it came to pass after these things that one told Joseph, behold, thy father is sick. And he took with him his sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. And one told Jacob and said, behold, thy son Joseph cometh unto thee. And Israel strengthened himself and sat upon the bed. And Jacob said unto Joseph, Yahweh Almighty appeared unto me at Luz in the land of Canaan and blessed me, and said unto me, behold, I will make thee fruitful and multiply thee, and I will make of thee a multitude of people, and will give this land to thy seed after thee for an everlasting possession. And now thy two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, which were born unto thee in the land of Egypt before I came unto thee into Egypt, are mine. As Reuben and Simeon, they shall be mine. And thy issue, which thou begettest after them, shall be thine, and shall be called after the name of their brethren in their inheritance.
Right, so the sons that they have after them, they shall be called after the name of their inheritance, right? We know.
Verse 7. And as for me, when I came from Padan, Rachel died by me in the land of Canaan in the way, when yet there was but a little way to come into Ephraim. And I buried her there in the way of Ephraim, the same is Bethlehem. And Israel beheld Joseph's sons, and said, who are these? And Joseph said unto his father, they are my sons, whom the Most High have given me in this place. And he said, bring them, I pray thee, unto me, and I will bless them. Now the eyes of Israel were dim for age, so that he could not see. And he brought them near unto him, and he kissed them and embraced them. And Israel said unto Joseph, I had not thought to see thy face, and lo, the Most High hath showed me also thy seed. And Joseph brought them out from between his knees, and he bowed himself with his face to the earth. And Joseph took them both, Ephraim in his right hand, and toward Israel's left hand, and Manasseh in his left hand toward Israel's right hand, and brought them near unto him. And Israel stretched out his right hand and laid it upon Ephraim's head, who was the younger, and his left hand upon Manasseh's head, guiding his hands with him. For Manasseh was the firstborn. And he blessed Joseph and said, Yahweh, before whom my fathers Abraham and Isaac did walk, the Most High, which fed me all my life long unto this day. The angel which redeemed me from all evil, bless the last. And let my name be named on them, and the name of my fathers, Abraham and Isaac, and let them grow into a multitude in the midst of the earth. And when Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand upon the head of Ephraim, it displeased him. And he held up his father's hand to remove it from Ephraim's head unto Manasseh's head. And Joseph said unto his father, not so, my father, for this is the firstborn. Put thy right hand upon his head.
Right, so why did he take his hand off Ephraim's head and place it on Manasseh? What did we just read? You gotta pay attention, right? So Manasseh is the firstborn. Right, so firstborn in the scriptures, they're supposed to get the blessing from the Father. They're the ones that get the blessing first, and it travels through them. Right, so it displeased Joseph, so he tried to take his hand off of Manasseh's head and place it on Ephraim. Right, read on.
19. And his father refused and said, I know it, my son, I know it. He also shall become a people, and he also shall be great. But truly his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his seed shall become a multitude of nations.
Right, so he's prophesying. That's one of the prophecies for Ephraim, right? That he shall be a greater people. We don't.
And he blessed them that day, saying, Indeed shall Israel bless, saying, The Most High made thee as Ephraim and as Manasseh. And he set Ephraim before Manasseh. And Israel said unto Joseph, Behold, I die. But the Most High shall be with you, and bring you again into the land of your fathers. Moreover, I have given to thee one portion above thy brethren, which I took out of the hand of the Amorite with my sword and with my bow. Chapter 49. And Jacob called unto his sons and said, Gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days. Gather yourselves together, and hear, ye sons of Jacob, and hearken unto Israel your father.
Now, when you go to Genesis chapter 49, it starts listing the prophecies for the 12 tribes, right? In the last day, it says, these are the things that shall befall you in the last days. So when we talk about this, the 12 tribe chart, right? A lot of people say, oh, the 12 tribe chart is false, right? This is fake, right? There's no way you guys can possibly know that this is the 12 tribes, right? But when you go through scripture, you go to Deuteronomy chapter 33 and Genesis 49, and you start breaking down the history. Who is who and what is what? Let's see what characteristics line up with these people. When you start going through, matter of fact, I was reading through this earlier, and I'm thinking about next week, I'm just going to focus on this 12 tribes chart, because I think that's very important. Does everybody have a good understanding of the 12 tribes and where it comes from? Or is it kind of still vague to everyone? Right? That's something that needs to be covered, right? So next week, we're going to go over this more in depth. We're just going to go over the basics for now, though, right? So go ahead and keep reading.
Verse 3. Reuben, thou art my firstborn, my might, and the beginning of my strength, the excellency of dignity, and the excellency of power.
All right, so when we talk about Reuben, that's talking about the Seminole Indians, right? It talks about the excellency and held their dignity. These are the people that fought back, right? When we talk about the Seminole Indians, they fought back against the, I think it was the cavalry, no, that was Gad, right? They fought back against, I can't remember the name of it. But while they were fighting back, even when they were defeating these people, they kept their excellency, when they kept their dignity, right? Meaning they didn't put off their heritage, they kept their heritage after when you do your research. All right, read on.
Verse 4. Unstable as water, thou shalt not excel, because thou wentest up to thy father's bed, then defilest thou it.
Right.
He went up to my couch.
Right, so what is that talking about? Right. Who did Reuben sleep with? Does anybody remember? He slept with one of the concubines of his father. Right, so that's why Reuben, it says, it says, thou shalt not excel, right? Because of that reason. Read on.
Verse 5. Simeon and Levi are brethren, instruments of cruelty are in their habitation.
Now this is a big one, right? So Simeon and Levi are brethren. Right? These are the people, when you talk about the land, they come from the same landmass, right? They sing the same island, they're brethren. But they always fight, they have instruments of cruelty. When you talk about the so-called Haitians, the so-called Dominican Republic, right? These are the people that use spiritual warfare for their gain, right? And it goes deeper into detail, but when you talk about Haitians are known, very known for voodoo, right? We was on the street the other day preaching, and I can't tell you how many Levites are man, they're wicked. You know what I'm saying? Like, they came up saying, oh, you think you're doing something? He said, I do that big whoop. You know what I mean? Like, I got that stuff. Like, I do that, right? So these people are very known for doing voodoo, right? And then the Dominican Republicans, they use Santa Maria, right?
Same thing.
Same thing.
But the only difference is that as far as Haitians are concerned,
right,
they're learning from the Africans.
Right.
However, they surpass the Africans because of I guess they were supposed to be the priest.
The priest, absolutely.
So whatever ability that God gave them is still with them, but they're not using it for.
They don't use it for good, right?
To do good. So therefore, even the Africans, they bypass the African. As far as voodoo is concerned, I mean, bar none, the Haitians.
Listen, I knew that when I was a kid. I grew up with Haitians, right? I knew that where we're from, Fort Lauderdale, that whole area, full of Haitians, right? I knew that from a very young age that they were involved with it. Right? They talk about zombies and things like that. It's like, you hear this.
You can't make a zombie out of a dead person.
Right.
It's a living being
that they make into zombies.
They have certain things they do. They don't give you salt to eat And once the body doesn't have salt, it's not as normal as it should be. So that's how they make the salt.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Okay. Right. So then I know when scriptures talk about they use instruments of cruelty. Right. Those are those things that they use. Right. They always say. I remember a Levite guy told me back in the day. If you bump into a Haitian and he doesn't say anything, he just looks at you. You should be careful. Right. Because they use instruments of cruelty when they fight you. Right. So read on.
Verse 6. O my soul, come not thou into their secret, unto their assembly my honor.
Right, so let's read that carefully. Oh my soul, come not thou into their secret. What is that secret? These are things that were given to them by the Most High. They just switched the use of them. Right? They were the ones, remember, they were the ones sacrificing these animals. Where you gotta remember where they got these things from. The Most High showed them these things from a very long time ago. Right? They were the mediators between the children of Israel and the Most High. They're the ones that sent them the sacrifices, right? The sin offerings and things like that. All right, read on.
Unto their assembly, my honor. Be not thou united.
All right, so don't take part in what they have to do with the Most High, right? Read on.
For in their anger, they slew a man.
They do what?
They slew a man.
And they're very known for that, man. Right? Santa Maria Voodoo is known for that. Right? They say it's fake. But that's not what scripture says. All right, what you got?
Like when people do they actually use voodoo dolls?
Voodoo dolls? I'm not sure of that custom. I've heard of it. I've never seen it though. I'm not sure. I've seen it, but I've never, I've heard of it, but I've seen it. They don't use voodoo dolls.
They'll use the pictures, they'll use the name,
Okay.
and other things. The voodoo is what I see in American movies.
Right, exactly. Yeah. All right, read on.
And in their self-will, they dig down a wall.
Their self-will, they dig down the wall. They do this in their anger. They do this by themselves. Right, read on.
Cursed be their anger, for it was fierce. And their wrath, for it was cruel.
And it's a cruel thing that they use, man. Right, read on.
I will divide them in Jacob,
right,
and scatter them in Israel.
These are talking about the Levites, right? Read on.
Judah, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise.
Right.
Thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies.
Now that's the big one. Thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies. Who was the last one out of slavery? All right. When you talk about black people being in slavery, right? It was the American blacks, the African Americans. Right. There was a documentary that I was watching the other day, and the guy was saying that he got out of slavery in 1960. His people were still in slavery in Mississippi until the 1960s. He was living on a plantation, and he told the story of how he had to watch his father dig his own grave. They made his father dig his grave and killed him in the grave. And then his uncle, they hung his uncle in front of him and castrated him. Right? This is a living and breathing black man till this day. In the 1960s, that's what they did. Right? What you got? Castrated means when they remove your manly parts. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Right, read on.
Thy father's children shall bow down before thee.
Right, because Judah was what? The head tribe. He's the head tribe of the southern tribe, right? Read on.
Judah is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, thou art gone up. He stooped down, he couched as a lion.
He's crouched as a lion, read on.
And as an old lion, who shall rouse him up?
So that's why they say, if these American blacks wake up, this world is over.
Yeah.
Right? Talks about that lion as well. Talk about the couching lion. Right? What does a lion do? A lion has strength. And they don't understand how much strength they have. But they say if these people over here wake up, the world is over. So that's why so many of us over here waking each other up, When Judah wakes up, it's finished. Right? Read on.
The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh come. Right? And unto him shall be the gathering of the people be.
Unto him shall the gathering of the people be. Read on.
Right. Binding his foal unto the vine, and his donkey's colt unto the choice vine.
Right.
He washed his garments in wine, and his clothes in the blood of grapes.
Right. When we talk about what Christ did and where he comes from, what tribe is Christ from? The tribe of Judah. Right. Read on. When it talks about that colt and that vine, washed his garments in wine and his clothes in the blood of grapes. What does that wine and the blood of grapes represent? That blood. Right? Because he's gonna be the one that saves, he's the head guy of Judah. He's gonna be the one that saves us out of this captivity. All right, read on.
His eyes shall be red with wine.
Red with wine, this is talking about Christ. Remember, Christ's eyes, his eyes were red. Right? He didn't have blue eyes or green eyes. He had red eyes from doing what? Drinking wine. Read on.
And his teeth white with milk.
Right? White with milk. Keep it.
Zebulon shall dwell at the haven of the sea.
The haven of the sea. Now, when we talk about Guatemala to Panama, right, the Mayans, right, we know when you do your research, and I'm going to go more into this next week. When you do your research, these people had a lot to do with astrology, right? They knew what was going on. And we talk about the way their infrastructure were and how their culture, their heritage. It had a lot of relation to the Hebrews, right? So Guatemala to Panama, read that again, the haven of what?
Haven of ships.
Right, so when we talk about the Panama Canal, that's one of the biggest ship havens in the earth right now. So that's where you get them from. Zebulon is from Guatemala to the Panama, right? Read on.
And his borders shall be unto Zidon.
And I want to be clear. We're talking about the native people of Zebulon, not the people, not the conquistadors, the ones who were conquered over there, right? The original, the Mayans, right? Read on.
Verse 14. Issachar is a strong donkey.
Issachar is a strong donkey. What does a donkey used to do? Hard work.
Yeah.
He's used for that hard labor. He's just working hard all day. Read on.
Couching down between two burdens.
Two burdens. Read on.
And he saw that rest was good.
He saw the rest was good. That's why when you have, when you see Issachar come out, they rest. They have a rest period of about what, an hour, and then they're right back at it. Talking about 12, 13, 14-hour days, man. Working in the hot sun on the roof. This is a known fact of Issachar, right? Nobody works harder than Issachar, right? Read on.
And the land that it was pleasant, and bowed his shoulder to bear,
right?
And became a servant unto tribute.
A servant unto tribute, right? He became a servant. What does he do? He serves, right? Which is not a bad thing, but that's just in their nature. This is what makes up the body of the 12 tribes of Israel. Every tribe has different characteristics and attributes, right? So these are the hard-working people, right? Read on.
Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel.
Right?
Dan shall be a servant by the way.
So Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Now, so this gets complicated when we start talking about Dan, because we know Dan wasn't listed in the 12 tribes in Revelation, right? Give me Revelation chapter 7. Hold that. Right? Like I said, I'm going to go more into detail about this 12 tribes chart, because we want to be able to defend it. If we teach this, we have to be able to defend this, right? There's a reason why we say this is the 12 tribes of Israel, right? 7 and 14, or 7 and 4. Right. Read 7 and 4.
The book of Revelation, chapter 7 and verse 4.
Right.
And I heard the number of them which were sealed. And there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel.
So it's about the list of tribes of all of Israel, the 12 tribes. Read on.
Of the tribe of Judah were sealed 12,000.
So you have Judah, read on.
Of the tribe of Reuben were sealed 12,000.
You have Reuben, read on.
Of the tribe of Gad were sealed 12,000.
You have the tribe of Gad, read on.
Of the tribe of Asher were sealed 12,000.
You have Asher, read on.
Of the tribe of Naphtali were sealed 12,000.
You have Naphtali, read on.
Of the tribe of Manasseh were sealed 12,000.
Tribe of Manasseh, right? Read on.
Of the tribe of Simeon were sealed 12,000.
Right, read on.
Of the tribe of Levi were sealed 12,000.
Keep reading.
Of the tribe of Issachar were sealed 12,000.
Right.
Of the tribe of Zebulun were sealed 12,000.
Right.
Of the tribe of Joseph were sealed 12,000.
Who was Joseph?
Joseph is Ephraim, but they had a double portion.
Right, yeah, double portion of Manasseh and Ephraim. Right, read on.
Of the tribe of Benjamin were sealed 12,000.
Right.
After this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude which no man could number.
Right, so when you look at the tribe of Dan, Dan's not listed in that 144. Right? Why is that? We're not exactly sure, but when we go to the scriptures, go back to Genesis. I'll show you something. All right.
Book of Genesis, chapter 49, verse 16. Dan shall judge his people
right?
as one of the tribes of Israel.
As one of the tribes of Israel. Read on.
Dan shall be a serpent by the way,
Uh-huh.
an adder in the path.
Right? What does a serpent and an adder do? They bite you down, right? Read on.
That biteth the horse heels,
Uh-huh.
so that his rider shall fall backwards.
So when you read the scripture, it talks about Dan, he's going to be part of that help as we come back into the fold. Right? Dan's going to be that judge, but he shall be as one of the 12 tribes of Israel. Right? He's going to be that one helping to bring the enemy down in this earth. Right? So why they didn't list Dan in the 12 tribes in Revelations is not exactly clear. Right? I know some people have Dan listed on their 12 tribes chart, but from what we tell in Revelations, they're not listed. But it does says Dan is going to be somewhat of a help as we rise back into our rightful place. Right? So read on.
Verse 19.
Mm-hmm.
Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last.
Who is Gad? Gad is the so-called Native American, the Native American Indians. Right? Read that part again.
Gad, a troop shall overcome him,
Uh-huh.
but he shall overcome at the last.
Is that not what happened to the Native Americans? Right? How many Native Americans lived in this land? They killed over 77 million Native Americans. Right? And these were great warriors.
Mhm.
They fought against the cavalry, right? But they were overtaken because what? They were sinning. Right? When you look at Native Americans and their culture, they had very similar culture to us. They wore fringes on the bottom of their clothing. When you read some of their words that they used to speak, some of their words relate exactly to the Hebrew. Right? Exactly to the Hebrew. What you got?
Many of the American Indians still today, they're not really
No.
American Indians, they're Caucasian.
No, absolutely.
They are the one that call $5 Indians.
I was just gonna bring that out. You actually, I meant to mention it. Thank you for the water. Right? You have something called $5 Indians, the people Cherokee Indians, right? I took a sociology class one time, and we were dealing with social politics and things of that nature. And they asked everybody who in here is Native American. And you have white people with blue eyes that raise their hand, and then you have the black girls and black men who raise their hand. So somebody's lying.
Yeah.
And when you do your research, you'll know that there was something going on where they were selling land and all of these things, and they were able to buy nationalities for $5 and call themselves Indians to get what? Land.
Yeah.
So they changed their nationality for $5 and became an Indian. Right? But they never went through what the real Indians went through. Right? The Native Americans are not white people. Right? You have some Native Americans that's darker than me.
Yes.
Right? What you got?
Especially from the tribe of Gad.
Yes, exactly, right.
Just how it's going to
It's the opposite. I see where you're going with that, but it's the opposite. Right? But it does, in relation, it does show you how shallow these people are, right? To throw their own nationality away and buy somebody else's nationality for $5, it just goes to show you how simple these people are. Right? This is what they do. It's in their nature to do this. They get that from their forefather Esau, right? So go ahead, read on.
Verse 20. Out of Asher his bread shall be fat, and
Right.
he shall yield royal dainties.
Right, so you from Asher, tribe of Asher is Colombia to Uruguay, right? And this is the Incas, the indigenous people of Colombia to Uruguay, right? Why do they say his bread shall be fat? Because this is a place where they had abundance of food, right? All different types of food. Read on.
Verse 21. Naphtali is a hind let loose.
Right, and I'm going to go in more into detail about this. There's some more history on Asher as well. So Naphtali is a hind let loose, right? Naphtali is the Argentinians and the Chile, right? Read on.
He giveth goodly words.
Mm-hmm.
Joseph is a fruitful bow,
Right?
even a fruitful bow by the well.
When we talk about Joseph, we talk about Puerto Ricans. The word Puerto Rican means a rich port, right? When we talk about just like Haiti, the land of riches, all those things, the elements, Puerto Rico has the same thing, right? This is where they get the Puerto Ricans. When you go into the research of Puerto Ricans, they name themselves Borica, right? Borica, I know Moreno, you said? What was that you said? Yeah, Borica, right? And then it relates to a Hebrew word, Borikians or something like that. Can't remember off the top of my head, but Borikians is a word that means, what is it? It means brave, land of the brave, right? Right? That's a Hebrew word. And there's a book that they made about these guys. When they got to Puerto Rico, I think it's called The Lost Tribes. And it deals something with the northern tribes. When they got to Puerto Rico, it was a man who gave an account of his labors once he got there. He says once he got off the thing, the boat, he says that these people were speaking full Hebrew.
Yeah.
So how are Puerto Ricans speaking full Hebrew? Because those are the same people as us. These are the 12 tribes. They were brought there in slavery, just like we were brought to all these other
Columbus
people.
had Hebrew translators with him.
Absolutely.
He knew that some of our brothers and sisters were already here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And he did a great number to Christopher Columbus is the devil that the Bible speaks of. He did a great number of evil to our people, man. When you really research the things he did to conquer us, he did not care about us at all. He was a cruel white man, a cruel Spaniard, man.
Yeah.
Right? He was cutting off heads, cutting off feet, and cutting off hands. All of these things he was cutting off, man.
That's the truth. You know, when you go over like to school, and they always present like he was some great guy,
Right.
traveled the sea, and make it look so innocent. But they don't know the true meaning of what he did.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's why it's so important for us to be the light in the world.
Yeah.
Right? The light is not always accepted, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
Right? That's why it's important for us to get out there. If we're not telling the truth, nobody's going to do it.
Mhm.
Like the history books right now in school is telling our children that we are immigrants.
Yeah.
Right? That we were paid servants when we came here. Where did we get paid?
Well, then I'm trying to say that we volunteered
No,
Yeah.
that's not true.
to do slavery.
Scripture says-
To try to increase our slavery with that gays and lesbians.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. You know, this is a wicked country.
Mhm.
You know?
Then I'm going to take my children that way.
Right.
They don't stand for the national anthem.
Absolutely. Hallelujah.
Yeah.
They were trying to tell me, well, he's only 9 years old. I said, he's only 9 years old. I told him he's true history and he's not to stand for that.
Absolutely.
I said, when they were reading that constitution, that my brothers and sisters were in the field. So
Yes,
therefore,
yeah,
absolutely.
It had nothing to do with that.
Exactly.
So when the teacher tried to tell him this, not the teacher, the teacher would say, no, he doesn't have to put
Right,
that
right.
over there.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
We do not stand as even, it doesn't matter if you're, and I know it's tough. Listen, we're going against a system that is completely against us, even the children. So that it takes some heart to stand up for yourself, right? Stand up for what you believe in, right? But we know as Israelites, we do not pledge of allegiance. We do not pledge allegiance to this country. This country has never loved us and never will, right? Nor any other country. We do not pledge allegiance with those countries, right? Pledging allegiance, everybody understands what that means, right? When you pledge allegiance, right? If I pledge allegiance to you, that means I'm on your team, I'm on your side, right?
Even the national anthem, it has a third verse.
Yes,
They never try to say, because they, people will see how much of a devil they really are.
it's wicked, man. This is Babylon the Great. It's wicked, right? Wicked. And that just goes to show you, why is a child standing up singing Pledge of Allegiance anyway? He doesn't even know what that means. I remember being 5 years old knowing the Pledge of Allegiance in the back of my mind. Because we did it every morning.
Yeah.
That's brainwashing at its finest.
Mhm.
That's why we have to protect our children. Right? All right, come, read on.
Joseph is a fruitful bow,
Uh-huh.
even a fruitful bow by the well,
Right?
whose branches run over the wall.
Right. When we talk about his branches that run over the wall, you know that Puerto Ricans have many children, man. Right? Puerto Ricans are very fruitful. Right? Their children are all over the place, all over this country. You will meet Puerto Ricans. Puerto Ricans they'll be in Alaska. How did a Puerto Rican get to Alaska? Huh? Because their branches run over the wall. Read on.
The archers have sorely grieved him
Uh-huh.
and shot at him
Right.
and hated him.
Right? They did the same thing to the Puerto Ricans that they did to us, right? Read on.
But his bow abode in strength,
Uh-huh.
and the arms of his hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty power of Jacob.
Right? So when we talk about the land of the brave, and they were called Boricua, right? These were the brave people. They had fighters on their side as well, right? They were fighters, warriors. Read on.
For this is the shepherd, the stone of Israel.
Keep reading.
Even by the power of thy father, who shall help thee, and by the Almighty, who shall bless thee with blessings of heaven above, blessings of the deep that lieth under, blessings of the breast and of the womb.
Right, so they have all these blessings. Read on.
The blessing of thy father hath prevailed above the blessings of my progenitors,
Right.
unto the utmost bound of the everlasting hills. They shall be on the head of Joseph, and on the crown of the head of him that was separate from his brother.
Right, so on the head of Joseph and on the crown of him that was separate. Who's that talking about? Right? It's talking about Judah and Ephraim, who are the head tribes, right? Read on.
27. Benjamin shall raven as a wolf.
Right?
In the morning he shall devour the prey, and at night he shall divide the spoil.
So when we talk about Benjamin shall raven as a wolf, what does raven mean? Right? Raven means to yell out, call out, speak out. Right? Benjamin, Jamaicans, they're known for doing this. The islands, the West Indies are known for doing this. They had songs talking about we were Israelites you got songs from the 1930s, 1920s, talking about we were Israelites, right? And then when you look up the word maroon, right? They have maroons that live in Jamaica, right? The word maroon in the Latin means wolf. These things are not made by coincidence, man, right? So when you talk about Jamaicans and the West Indies, Trinidad and stuff like that, these people are known for telling the people that they've been Israelites. They've been calling the burn down Rome from a long time ago, right? How many songs do we have saying burn Babylon, burn, right? Judah doesn't make songs like that, or at least not really, right? We have been calling for the destruction of our enemy for a long time. Read on.
28. All these are the 12 tribes of Israel.
Right.
And this is it, that their father spake unto them, and blessed them.
Right.
Every one according to his blessing, he blessed them.
Right.
And he charged them, and said unto them, I am to be gathered unto my people. Bury me with my fathers in the cave that is in the field of Ephron the Hittite.
Right.
In the cave that is in the field of Machpelah, which is before Mamre in the land of Canaan, which Abraham bought with the field of Ephron the Hittite for a possession of a burying place. There they buried Abraham and Sarah his wife. There they buried Isaac and Rebekah his wife. And there I buried Leah. The purchase of the field and of the cave that is therein was from the children of Heth. And when Jacob had made an end of commanding his sons, he gathered up his people into the bed and yielded up the goats, and was gathered unto his people.
All right, so he gave up the ghosts. Once he started giving out those blessings, he told them what's going to befall them in the last days. He gave up the ghosts, right? He did it. Remember, he said that he didn't have many evil days for him because he believed on the Most High. All right, so let's keep reading. Last chapter.
Chapter 50. And Joseph fell upon his father's face and wept upon him and kissed him. And Joseph commanded his servants, the physicians, to embalm his father, and the physicians embalmed Israel. And 40 days were fulfilled for him. For so are fulfilled the days of those which are embalmed. The Egyptians mourned for him 80 days.
All right, so he was embalmed after 40 days, all right? Read on.
And when the days of his mourning were past, Joseph spake unto the house of Pharaoh, saying, If now I have found grace in your eyes, speak, I pray thee, in the ears of Pharaoh, saying, My father made me swear, saying, Lo, I die. And my grave which I have digged for me in the land of Canaan, there shalt thou bury me. Now therefore let me go up, I pray thee, and bury my father, and I will come again. And Pharaoh said, Go up, and bury thy father, according as he made thee swear. And Joseph went up to bury his father, and with him went up all the servants of Pharaoh, the elders of his house, and all the elders of the land of Egypt, and all the house of Joseph, and his brethren, and his father's house. Only their little ones, and their flocks, and their herds they left in the land of Goshen. And there went up with him both chariots and horsemen. And it was a very great company.
It was a very great company. That shows you that they had a lot of respect for this guy. Right? He had a lot of respect, and he's not even from Egypt.
Yeah.
Right? Egyptians were calling Hebrews abominations, and the Egyptians had to go to the funeral.
Yes.
Right? Read on.
And they came to the threshing floor of Atad, which is beyond Jordan, and there they mourned with a great and very sore lamentation. And he made a mourning for his father 7 days. And when the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanites, saw the mourning in the floor of Atad, they said, This is a grievous mourning to the Egyptians.
Right.
Wherefore the name of it was called Abel Mizraim, which is beyond Jordan.
All right, so imagine that you got Egyptians crying over this guy, man. It says it was a grievous mourning.
Wow.
They were really upset that this man passed. That goes to show you how much respect and how much they loved Jacob, man. All right, we don't.
And his sons did unto him according as he commanded them.
Mm-hmm.
For his sons carried him into the land of Canaan and buried him in the cave of the field of Machpelah, which Abraham bought with the field for a possession of a burying place of Ephron the Hittite before Mamre. And Joseph returned into Egypt, he and his brother, and all that went up with him to bury his father after he had buried his father. And when Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, Joseph will perhaps hate us and will certainly requite us all the evil which we did unto him.
All right, so they're saying that now that Jacob is dead, Israel is dead. He's saying, man, now Joseph is going to take out his anger.
Yeah.
They're starting to remember when they put Joseph into that pit, and then he got sold into captivity in Egypt. He said, man, my father was the only one that allowed Joseph to have pity on us. Now that he's gone, Joseph's going to kill us, man. Read on.
And they sent a messenger unto Joseph, saying, Thy father did command before he died, saying, So shall ye say unto Joseph, Forgive, I pray thee now, the trespass of thy brethren and their sin, for they did unto thee evil. And now we pray thee, forgive the trespass of the servants of the power of thy father. And Joseph wept when they spake unto him.
Right.
And his brethren also went and fell down before his face. And they said, Behold, we be thy servants.
I remember Joseph prophesied that a long time ago when he was in the field. He said, you guys are going to come and bow down before me. And that's exactly what happened. All right. Read on.
And Joseph said unto them, Fear not, but am I in the place of Yahweh? But as for you, ye thought evil against me. But the Most High meant it unto good to bring to pass as it is this day to save much people alive.
Right. He said, I know you thought evil in your minds and in your hearts in me, but that was God's plan all along, because you thinking evil of me is what saved everybody else.
Yeah.
All right. He said this was meant to happen. All right. Read on.
Now therefore fear ye not. I will nourish you and your little ones. And he comforted them and spake kindly unto them.
Right.
And Joseph dwelt in Egypt, he and his father's house. And Joseph lived 110 years, and Joseph saw Ephraim's children of the third generation. The children also of Machir, the son of Manasseh, were brought up upon Joseph's knees. And Joseph said unto his brother, I die. And the Most High will surely visit you and bring you out of this land unto the land which he sware to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. And Joseph took an oath of the children of Israel, saying, The Most High will surely visit you, and ye shall carry up my bones from hence. So Joseph died, being 110 years old, and they embalmed him, and he was put in a coffin in Egypt.
So Joseph was buried in Egypt. Right. They kept Joseph's body because they looked at him like he was, like kind of like a pharaoh. He had all the charge. Right? So let's clap it up for the Most High. We got all the way from Genesis chapter 1 through Genesis chapter 50. Right. So we should have some good understanding of Genesis. Right. I want to do it this week. Next week, I'll do a little pop quiz on what was going on through Genesis. So make sure you remember. All right. Make sure you remember. All right. So that's pretty much it for the scriptures. Does anybody have any questions? Right, about what we read, about what was being taught, about the 12 tribes? Any questions? What you got?
Are there any holidays coming?
High holy days coming up. The next one is New Moon.
Yeah, 12 is 12.
Is the 12?
Yeah.
At even?
Yeah.
Okay, so it'll be the 12th at even. That falls on a Tuesday. I know I try to be here for the new moons for you guys, but the problem is I work later through the day, so it's hard for me to come all over Fort Lauderdale to get here and then go back to work the next day. So that's why I always say, like I usually put in the group chat, make sure you guys just tune into the live at Fort Lauderdale and participate from there if you can. All right? I wish I could be here, but unfortunately it just wouldn't make sense for me to do all that moving. So that being said, so we're gonna have council really quick. It shouldn't take too long. Let's see what we bring up. We have council every first of the month, like I always say, the council is to address any issues that's going on with the congregation, with the people. If we have any concerns or comments on how we're moving, how we should be moving and where we're going, where we plan on going, this is the time to bring that up. This council is made for us to stop our spirits and things like that. What you got?
Is this school gonna get built down here or down here for us?
It's gonna be here. We already have a school in Fort Lauderdale. We need another one because it's too small, honestly, but that's a whole different story. So we're gonna be looking for a school soon. One of the things that we need to do first is, get more people here because I wanna make sure that the building is able to stand, right? I don't wanna get something where we're struggling to pay the rent and then we lose it within the first 5 to 6 months. I wanna make sure that we're stable and, we're ready to rock, we're ready to go. But we need to get more out on the streets and get people in here. What you got?
How are you going to plan on doing?
How do I plan on doing it?
Yeah. Between Fort Lauderdale and here.
What do you mean? How do I, like coming here?
Yeah.
So
You're gonna have to go on the street, pass flyers and stuff like that.
What's wrong with me?
So,
I mean, I'm doing that right now. Like, listen,
I know, but
I can't do it forever. That's what you're saying?
I don't think.
That's, I don't know.
Because if you were closer, you can do further.
Well-
I mean, more work, but then again, I mean.
Here's the main, I'll tell you, here's the main goal, right? So like, let me turn this off. Shalom. All right, here's